and stop by everybody here. He's making it on over.
That'll be another 5 minutes.
Could be.
Shaking hands and kissing babies and all that.
Exactly. Trey, what's going on, man? How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
You ready?
I sure am.
Okay.
Yeah. Trey, you might hear a slight echo just in case. But listen, the last time that I saw Trey, see if you can, the last time I saw Trey, can you hear me a little bit more?
Huh?
You can hear me?
Can you turn my headphones up?
I'm going to try here and see. Is there any difference or the same?
Okay, that's better.
That's better.
Big
Okay.
Trey, welcome.
Listen, last time I saw Trey Thomas, not obviously other than the playing field, if you remember, the last time I ended up seeing you was Brandon Lee Gowton and myself and Jimmy Seltzer up in the studios in 94 WIP.
Oh, okay.
And now, that day when I saw you, because you were busy doing other things and I know you were making your way out, so I asked for a picture then. Once you stood up, because obviously you're tree size for anybody who's seen you. But I was going to ask you for a picture then, but I know you were running off and doing so many different things. But here we are 2 years later, you coming down here at Tampa Joe's, and we appreciate you coming out here. But listen, Trey, first of all, thank you so much for what you did for the Eagles. Obviously, the invaluable time you had with the organization, we appreciate it. Obviously, you're going to be an Eagle for life, no matter what ends up happening. And all the success that you've had even after your years of football. We appreciate everything you did in the community, everything you continue to do for us. And as far as coming out here for us today, I know it's kind of last minute to try and put everything together, but we appreciate you coming on with us today, man. I can't thank you enough.
Already, man. Yeah, because I'm right there in Bradenton. I was coaching at IMG. So once I heard about this event, I was like, hey, man, I reached out and I'm like, I'll make sure I come over here and hang out. Since everybody's right here so close, I got to come hang out with family.
Trey, what?
Again,
I've got an angel. Trey, Mike Fuji, co-host Broad Street South. I wanted to thank you for coming on. Appreciate you doing this last minute. Thank you for your services for the Eagles. What's your take of this game tomorrow?
I think it's going to be a physical game. I mean, this is you're in the playoffs, and you have a young team that's coming up there to go against Tom Brady, and I think that this team is going to come out here on fire. They're going to be ready to go. This is a proven game for them, and I think that the coaching staff has done a good job to get these guys ready. I think when you have a young core like this, and you have your Kelsey, you have your Fletcher Cox, the leaders in this group, I think they're going to do whatever they got to do to get these guys ready to come out there and go to war.
Yeah,
as far as go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I'll wait.
As far as when it comes to Jalen, Trey, and we know that we've heard so many different things about Jalen Hurts. Young quarterback, obviously first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator. I mean, it's just a first for Jalen. For what the expectations were in the beginning of the season, and now what we see at this point from Jalen Hurts, the expectations keep rising upon himself because he's just like Donovan McNabb. He takes a lot of responsibility for himself. And you hear this young man, the maturity in him, and knowing what he's responsible for when it comes to this offense. We've seen, again, leading up to the start of the season at 2-5, and then when the Eagles coming up to this point here. And Jalen, we know there's still a lot of work to be done. But as Jalen Hurts, and I know we hear from the NFL.com, we hear from the ESPNs of the world, is Jalen Hurts our quarterback of the future here with the Eagles?
Yeah, I think so. I like him. I really like him as an athlete. I like him as a leader. And I think he's just going to continue to develop. He's only in his second year, he's going to get better. The more experience he gets out there, the more times he gets to see different looks, those blitzes and everything, he's going to get better. And I think that he has the poise and the leadership to be able to carry this team and put it on his shoulders. I think that also when you have someone like a Kelsey, there's some other the guys that's in there, especially when you have leaders on your offensive line, that it can only help a young quarterback that's continued to trying to find his voice with a team.
Fuji?
Trey, you played against Tom Brady in Super Bowl 39. What's it going to take to get to Brady just to knock him around?
I think it's going to take pressure. I mean, you have to look at it as, Tom Brady is going to be a guy that's going to get rid of the ball pretty quick. So every rush should be trying to get there by 2 seconds. When you look at the average 7-step drop is taken between 2 to 2.7 seconds. So, every time 2.5. So every time that he drops back, you want to be putting a helmet on him. You want to make him uncomfortable. You want to put as much pressure on him as possible, and you have to be able to do it with your front four. Because if you bring the blitz, he knows where he wants to go with the ball, and that can hurt you.
That's true. Now, speaking of it, you mentioned Kelce here momentarily, and we also know that he's up for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. How much has Jason Kelce meant to this team, and obviously for being recognized as the Walter Payton Man of the Year, and then we hope that obviously he ends up taking it. How much has Kelce meant, obviously, number one, for the Eagles, and number two, do we see Kelce back here again as an Eagle next year?
I think you see him back as an Eagle for next year, just because he's playing really good football right now, and when you're playing good ball, it's hard to even think about walking away. Now, as far as what he makes to the team, I think when you have a leader like Kelce, someone he could mail it in if he wanted to. Just because, everything that he's done in this city and everything that he's done out there on that field, he's a Super Bowl champion, multiple Pro Bowls. He's on his way to having a Hall of Fame career. He could mail it in if he wanted to. But he's out there every play giving you everything that he has. And how can you not follow him? And it's not just about all the rah-rah talk, because guys see through that extremely quick. So when you have a guy like Kelce that's day in, day out, at every practice, in every game, he's giving it everything. How can you not follow him? And he's not afraid to show his multiple sides, because everybody's like, oh, man, football player, you got to be tough, all this all the time. But when he got in front of that team and he cried, I think that right there spoke to a lot of those guys, and it showed his vulnerability and his willingness to show everything that he is. And I think, how can you not follow that as a player?
That's absolutely true. Listen, I'm dying to see, and I hope and pray that Jason Kelce is able to walk away with it. Go ahead, Fuji.
Trey, as far as you playing for Andy Reid all those years, can you see any similarities in Nick Sirianni as Andy Reid had been? Nobody knew who Nick Sirianni was, just being under Frank Reich with the Indianapolis Colts, and Andy Reid just being the quarterback's coach under Mike Holmgren. Do you see any similarities at all in Nick Sirianni?
I think what Sirianni does is that's like what Coach Reid does. And one of the things I think that helped Coach Reid throughout his career, he allowed his players to be what they were. He never wanted us to be anything else than whatever we were. Just be yourself. And that's going to, when you're being yourself, you're going to play better. You're going to do things. He trusts his leaders to step up and lead the group. And as a coach, that's all you want to do. You want to build up a core of leaders that can shift. You allow them to be what they are. And I think that's one of the things that Sirianni is doing really well, is just trusting his players and just let them be whatever they are to get out there and go to battle.
I want to say, obviously, the defense we've seen it compared to when you played to now what we see the Eagles here in 2021. It's been small miscues when it comes to the defense, but in the last 5 to 6 weeks, we've seen the defense keep the offense in all game long. We know the Eagles always end up having, for some odd reason, I don't know why, but the slow first half. But again, the defense keeps them into the half. And then leading on as far as the Chargers in the second half. I want to know from you, Trey, if come off this draft season, and we know I think this class in particular, it's more loaded on the defensive side than we've seen with quarterbacks and running backs coming off the draft here. What will the Eagles need to do in this draft, or even some veterans that are out there when it comes to free agency, because we know that the season kicks back off again in March once they close it off. What will the Eagles need to do and Howie Roseman in order to make this defense even better than what it is right now?
Man, draft anybody that played in this last national championship game in Georgia and Alabama. You need to take whatever linebacker, pass rushers, defensive lineman, secondary player, receiver, whatever they have over there that just was in that SEC game. That's who you'd be going after. And I think that they have a lot of talent out there. And I think they need linebacker help. Yeah, I think you need to invest in that. But you would always be looking for weapons. But I think you don't need to go out there and spend one of those first-round picks on a quarterback. You definitely don't need that, because I think that Hurts could be your guy.
As far as when it comes to Nick Sirianni, we know that it was a surprise by everyone. I don't think anybody obviously knew who Nick Sirianni was, other than obviously in Indianapolis. We did hear from a lot of the fan base out there, and Michael Terrazas, who actually works for the Indianapolis Colts, he mentioned how much leadership that Nick Sirianni has. Now, we heard the speech with him when he came on. I think I want to say about almost 10 weeks at this point. When we talk about planting the seed in the fertilizer, growing it, and a lot of people made fun back then as far as what he had to state. Now, it's almost like the laugh that he has on everybody. Not that he's laughing at anybody, don't get me wrong. But the leadership that he's brought and to bring these guys together, is it almost the same comparison that we saw with Dougie P in 2017 when the Eagles were making that run?
Yeah, and now the Flowers speech, it kind of spoke to me, because I'm a person that I had a plant that was, it was wilting, and it was going down, but I spent some time with it. I changed it, I repotted it, I put it in different soil. I started putting it outside a little bit more, giving it a little bit more care. And now it's grown to be a nice, beautiful plant. But, I think that a lot of people listen to that and they're like, man, what the hell are you talking about? What is that? But I think that, it spoke to something. And I think that as players, you use whatever you got to do to get through to these guys. And I think that as a leader, as a coach, that he's just trying to find whatever way that he can motivate these guys and get them to go. And then you just lean on your leaders. You lean on your leaders, and once you lean on your leaders, and if they can go out there and carry this group, they'll be okay. Especially when you have someone like Kelsey. I think that that's extremely huge with this offense and with this team. That you have someone that's having a Hall of Fame career, that's day in, day out battling. Because too many times you've had big name guys that wasn't performing to the level that we expected their name to be, but Kelsey is that guy, and I think that really helps this team.
Yeah. Trey, as far as Jordan Mailata being a 7th-round pick, being a rugby player from Australia, coming into his own as the starting left tackle, do you see a lot of similarities of yourself and Jordan Mailata?
We play a little bit of different games, because he's coached by Coach Stoutland. Coach Stoutland has a different technique compared to what Juan was teaching me. But I think that he's extremely athletic. I think he's a much better run blocker than I am, especially at that height, someone that can play from a 2-point stance. My specialty was pass protection. That's where I laid I buttered my bread, and that's where I think that I excelled at. But I think Jordan Mailata is a lot more well-rounded when it comes to being able to be a better run blocker as well. And I think he's definitely developing to being an extremely good left tackle for a long time in this league.
Now, I want to ask, since you're here in front of me here, and everybody who's tuned in, we have Trey Thomas here, former Eagle, who a Florida resident, which, by the way, we're not that far away from each other, but I'll tell you after we get off here. But I will say, as the Hall of Fame ballots keep coming around, Donovan McNabb, is he a first-time Hall of Famer?
This year?
I think so.
They have him on the ballot. I don't keep up with all that, so I don't know.
He's eligible, I believe, not this year, coming next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't keep up with all that. I don't worry about that. I mean, if he makes it, cool, good for him. I'll go to it, and get in. I'll be at his thing in the plan, but I don't keep up with that. It's not something I really keep on my radar.
That's right. But it's okay. We're hoping to obviously come tomorrow. We know the weather might be a little rough when it comes to Eagles come tomorrow. But you can see, obviously, the fan base here, Trey, which is just kind of crazy when you think about it down here at Tampa Joe's. It goes to show you, not only do we travel in numbers as far as Eagles fans, but the transplants that have moved down here from Philly, Jersey, Delaware. I mean, this fan base, you can't get any better than this. So even though I know that I would say about 10%, 20% of Ray J obviously belong to the Eagles, the only reason why the Buccaneers have filled up that stadium was because of Tom Brady and what he did last year. Because anybody who lives here locally in this area, what you see this year and last year out of Tampa Bay, you would never seen it before if Tom Brady wasn't there. And not taking anything away from Jameis Winston, and it's a shame what happened to him in New Orleans because he was making such a great comeback. Compared to what happened to him here in Tampa Bay, he made a believer even out of me, because he was having such a strong season. And I'm pretty sure as long as he builds up his confidence, Jameis Winston's going to be just fine for New Orleans. And he could be obviously the bigger replacement for Drew Brees. But this fan base, as you see here, and it continues to grow because we aren't even done yet. Obviously, we'll be here till 7 o'clock and more than likely probably after 7 because you're not going to get rid of their fan base here. What does it mean to Nick Sirianni and the Eagles having this kind of atmosphere here in Tampa Bay?
It means everything. I mean, it makes it home, and that the Eagles fans, they travel well, and it's always been that support there, and that's one of the things that you love as a player. They know that when you're never in an environment that you don't see an Eagles fan. Like even when you walk the streets and you see somebody with an Eagle something on, you always acknowledge, you always speak, you always know that you're not alone. And especially when you're in games like this, when you could be going into a hostile environment. You know that you have a fan base up there that's going to be support you. You know that you're going to have somebody that's going to cheer for you, and that means something as a player when you're out there on that field.
Yeah, the one last thing here I'll end up saying is, as far as you, and thank you again for taking the time for speaking with us here at Broad Street South. But what is your biggest takeaway that you can say that you learned from the NFL from the time you entered to your retirement from the NFL?
I think that the dedication to your work, whatever you're doing. I mean, I think that one of the things that allowed me to last so long as I did in the NFL was just the attention to detail and not be afraid of being corrected. A lot of times people can't take correction, and I'm okay with that. And I think that makes you better. And I think that that's one of the things that helped me as I continue to progress through my NFL career and through life. And I think that correction is cool. Coaching is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You take that and you learn from it, and you try to get better from it. And I think that that's one of the things I take from throughout my career.
Well, listen, I'm, again, forever grateful you being an Eagle because we appreciate everything you did for the team. It's great to see, obviously, you're still in contact with them, which we absolutely love and appreciate. We hope for a win come tomorrow because it's much needed. But I will ask one last thing here. If the Eagles are able to, well, actually two. One is San Fran, I believe, takes care of Dallas because I don't think Dallas is able to even match what San Fran is doing right now and being one of the hotter teams in the NFL. So I think that's one thing. San Fran takes care of business. But if the Eagles, let's say hypothetically, Eagles take care of business today, can they beat Green Bay in Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would never say that this team can lose to someone. Like anytime I go into the season, I'm like the worst person to talk to. Everybody like, all right, man. Hey, what's your season projection? I'm always picking 17-0. I cannot. As a player, I would never say, hey, we're gonna lose this game. How can you think like that? If you're thinking like that, hell, your ass shouldn't be out there. And that's just how, as a player, and it's carried on throughout this. Because anytime anybody, hey, man, what's your season projection? We go 17-0. So I don't care who we play against. They go to Green Bay, I think we get that win. No matter what the weather condition is, whatever the situation is, we get that win. And that's how that should always be everybody's mindset anytime you get ready to go to battle.
I think so, too. So I'm just happy. Fuji, I don't know if you have one last thing here before I let Trey go.
Trey, I'm going to ask you, what's your prediction for tomorrow, Eagles, Bucs?
I think we win. I don't have a score. I don't really care about the score. I think we do whatever it takes to get the win. If we can keep Tampa Bay under 24, I like our chances.
Nice.
I like our chances. We get out there and we get some plays. I think we keep them under 24. We come out of here with a win.
True. Again, we just hope for the win, obviously, for everyone to be healthy. I know Josh Sweat could be possibly a scratch. We hope not. Well, we'll see what happens. Listen, Trey, thank you so much for stopping by and talking to us. I know you had the opportunity to talk with the Fanatic. And listen, much continued success. As I know you could be working on other things, but we do appreciate you coming on with us. And I'm forever grateful and thankful for you being an Eagle.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Trey, for calling on.
Fuji, give me one second here.
Eagles. Come on, everybody, let's get fired up for tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Eagles, Bucs. Fire in any questions you can. We're here to, I don't know how much longer we're on, but we're going on 3 hours. Probably the longest show we've ever done, but fire some predictions of the score for tomorrow, folks.